Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am B-Don, joined by the fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going over there, Gray?
I'm good, man. I was just calculating the odds that there is a pennant race for any team in the second half of September, and the odds are 0. Do odds? Wait, I don't know how odds work, to be honest. The odds are 1 in 100, so they're not 0. They're bad. The odds are bad. When odds are bad, I think they're higher versus lower. So I'm going with that. I just saw Jeff Passan of ESPN tweet out that the NL East race was getting tight. The Mets Braves for, I want to say, the second wild card. So there's literally, out of every playoff spot, I think there's one actual playoff implications race in September. I don't know if Rob Manfred necessarily drew it up like that, but that's what you got right now in baseball. They added so many playoff spots, and somehow there is an exact cutoff of exactly where the teams that are going to make the playoffs and the teams that are not going to make the playoffs. So there's only one actual race in baseball, and it's the Mets and Braves. Every other race, I think, is decided. So, actually, I'll clarify. They're not decided. Like, Orioles or the Yankees. One of them's going to win the East, and one of them is going to win a wild card. But they're both going to make the playoffs. What I mean is, the Mets and the Braves are the only teams, I think, that have any sort of like chance of one getting in and one not getting in. Everything else basically has been decided.
I don't know, it'd be pretty crazy if Detroit randomly made the playoffs.
What? Wait, what?
Why they're actually only 3.5 back, Gray. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
And the Cubs are 5 back. So yes, those are the next teams in line. But yes, it's most things are pretty much settled here.
Yeah, that's what I said. This actually, someone got annoyed with me because I said something to this effect online, and someone was like, "Well, no, my Twins, if they win the division, then it's going to be, then they get a bye versus having to play the first series, or whatever was said." Obviously, I really pay attention to criticism. But I mean, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of difference. But as we saw last year with the Braves getting in and then getting knocked out because they missed the first series, some people were saying last year that it's better to play in the first series. So is there a real serious, complication to whether or not the Twins win the division versus making the playoffs as a wild card? I don't really think so, but whatever. There is a in my labor league, it is incredibly tight. I'm tied in first place with one other team, and then there's one other team right behind me. So it's a 3-team race right now in my labor league, and that's even less interesting to listeners than real baseball. So we should jump into fantasy.
Somebody out there might actually care about your team, Gray. You never know. But yes, let's go ahead and move into some actual baseball here. Let's go into the call-ups. Jasson Dominguez is coming back up. He has 44 games in AAA this year, 7 home runs, 15 stolen bases. He's hit 309, 368, 480. This was an obvious, he should have been up already. Who knows what they were doing with the service time, et cetera, et cetera. But do you think he plays every day? And where do you think he sits in the lineup?
Okay, so first of all, I saw that Jeff McNeil, that's the Mets. They're basically the same player, though. Jeff McNeil fractured his wrist, but that doesn't really affect Jasson Dominguez. No, what I saw was in relation to Jasson Dominguez was DJ LeMahieu got IL'd conveniently right to open up a roster spot for Jasson Dominguez. Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that interesting? What was was it Billy Epler, the Mets GM last year, who got suspended for a year because he was making up fake injuries? How do you tell if there's a fake injury? What exactly is the fake injury giveaway? Is it the player saying to the commissioner, "Hey, I got IL'd and I'm not actually injured"? Is that the giveaway? Because I don't understand the whole oh yeah, this is a real injury that just happened to coincide perfectly with us calling up Jasson Dominguez. That seems a little fishy, but you know what? Whatever. We'll let that go. Yeah, so Jasson Dominguez also, it is very convenient that Jasson Dominguez gets called up right at the exact right time that if he were to get every day at bats, he won't lose his rookie eligibility. There's lots of Jasson Dominguez getting absolutely just service time manipulated. Anyway, I honestly, from this point forward, I feel like he can be a top 10 outfielder. I am really I'm not a Yankees homer, but Jasson Dominguez feels to me like a superstar in the making. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit gobsmacked by his sample size of last year when he came up and he just started pounding home runs. I really am convinced Jasson Dominguez, he looks like the real deal. I don't know. I'm assuming there's going to be some growing pains at some point. But everything in the minors tells me that not only is the power and speed there, but he doesn't strike out at all. Like in AAA, 18.7% strikeout rate in AAA as a 21-year-old feels like a superstar, man. I'm really I'm not usually a guy who gets all head over heels for Yankees, but yeah, Jasson Dominguez feels special. He feels like a guy who's going to be, if not next year because of, potential growing pains, within 2 years, just being like a perennial top 20 guy for fantasy. At least that's what he looks like to me. I would grab Jasson Dominguez in every single league. Like he feels like he could be a difference maker down the stretch. And as I say that, of course, Aaron Boone will be like, I think Verdugo should get some at bats. So yeah, I mean, we'll see with that for the extent for the rest of this year. Yeah, maybe he gets a little platooned, even though he shouldn't, obviously. What I said previously, he should play every day. But Aaron Boone does some crazy things. Who knows? I don't know. I would assume he plays every day. And if he does, there's no reason why, even in the shallowest of leagues, you should be grabbing him. I mean, he could potentially have, difference-making numbers for the rest of the way. I don't necessarily, I also feel like with the sample size from this point forward, he could be basically, the same as, I don't know, Pavin Smith, just to use some random guy who got hot, this past weekend, so I don't necessarily know if he's going to be like Jasson Dominguez could come up and go, hit 200 and only have like a home run or two and maybe a steal or two and be like, not worth rostering in any league. But for the upside, I would absolutely grab him. And then, looking forward to next year, I really feel like, I don't know, I'll have to touch base with Itch, but I feel like Dominguez is probably going to be the top rookie off the board going into next year. I don't know. We'll see. He's definitely, in my eyes, he feels special. He feels like a guy who's honestly like what we thought we were getting from Wyatt Langford it feels like Jasson Dominguez actually is that thing. But we'll see. I'm super excited though to see him.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to see him up. I mean, he should have been up, a few weeks ago, if not sooner. When he came up the first time and played a game, he hit fifth. They were down a bunch of guys who were injured. It'll be interesting where he slots in the lineup. I think there's room, maybe they could put him in front of Stanton. They could put him in front of Rizzo. They could just swap him in for Verdugo because they're lazy, and that feels like something that they would do. But I mean, he could climb this lineup pretty quickly if he gets off hitting well to begin with. Let's talk about another call-up in Kumar Rocker. He's supposed to start Thursday in Seattle for the Rangers. Double-A this year, he has 19 innings, 29 Ks, 3 walks, 1 earned run. In Triple-A, he had 10 innings, 18 Ks, 1 walk, 2 earned. You mentioned kind of Dominguez and where he fits in the prospect, world for next year. Rocker's definitely taken a little bit of hit in his prospect ranking and what people think of him. But those numbers that I read sound pretty good, Greg.
Yeah, no, Kumar Rocker is like Rocker actually is a good word for no, maybe it's not. I'm thinking of John Rocker now. So it does no longer good. Kumar Rocker is I mean, he's taken it's been like a roller coaster. Excuse me. Kumar Rocker, it's been like a roller coaster for his fantasy value, in just the last couple of years because, he got drafted by the Mets. Oh, not good for the Mets to give up on him if this new Kumar Rocker is the Kumar Rocker that we're going to be seeing. But yeah, so the Mets drafted him. Turned out he had an injury. Let him go back into the the pool. Then he got redrafted by the Rangers the following year, and so his stock was way down, right? So it was like, oh no, he's hiding an injury. This is bad. And then he went rehabbed, looked great. This year for the Rangers minor league teams, like you mentioned. And now I think his prospect status is on the rise again because like we see what he's capable of. To me, this feels like one of those situations like, I want to hope for the best with, as far as this year goes with Kumar Rocker, get that out of the way. I think he's a streamer. I like him. I would grab him in any league, but, it's the same as like, if Casey Mize is taking on the Rockies this week, I would grab Casey Mize. Like it doesn't matter what from now until the end of the year, which starters are good or not. More about which starters are having facing good matchups. Anyway, that's as far as this year goes. But with Kumar Rocker, what I'm afraid of in the big picture is that he's one of these guys like, we'll say another guy who is on the Mets and now is on the Rangers in, Jacob deGrom. Now, I'm sure Rocker would love to have Jacob deGrom's career. And I think anyone would. But, by what I mean by that is like, I'm afraid that we're going to see like huge, insane, great starts from Kumar Rocker, but he's not going to be able to stay healthy. I hope I'm wrong, but the fact that he started off his professional career, he didn't really start it, but the fact that he was drafted and had the the injury issues, and then he went back into the draft the following year. I mean, that really concerns me. So if like people are looking at him for keeper leagues, I'm a little concerned with the whole the potential for injury here because I mean the stuff is really I mean you see it with the numbers that the numbers that you read off, and just looking at him. If he is able to command his pitches, I mean, he, for me, I sort of, Jacob deGrom was like, that's pie in the sky sort of like turn out. I think a better comp is probably Mason Miller. And, we see what happened with him with the A's, where he was just so incredibly good as a starter, but he could never stay on the field for longer than like 20 innings. So they moved him to the bullpen, and now he's been relatively healthy out of the bullpen. So, I think if I'm Kumar Rocker, if I'm the Rangers, and we see Rocker's inability to stay healthy going forward, I kind of feel like the Rangers wouldn't be too bad off to move him to the bullpen and have him be like a high leverage, Mason Miller, Devin Williams type, who just throws like maybe 50 innings a year and has like a 15K per nine or something, like just ridiculous. So that's just sort of me speculating. There's no word of that I've seen. So yeah, we'll see though. I'm looking forward to watching him in his first start against the Mariners, but yeah, for this year, he's just a streamer.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not really clear how long he's going to have a roster spot, as the Rangers have like 85 pitchers on the IL that are working their way back. So any one of those old guys could eventually come back. John Gray, who goes to the IL, as the reason Rocker is called up, it's not going to be him because he's out for the season. But Scherzer's coming back still, so we'll see how long this lasts and what it looks like. But the accounts I read said his fastball was back up in velocity, which was a big reason why the numbers started to go bad. Was the velocity dropped massively. The slider's always been good, so it's really just that he needs the fastball velocity to be there because he doesn't really have a third pitch right now. So we will see what happens here, and that could be very interesting if you're looking around for somebody to grab.
Yeah,
moving over.
Totally. Yeah, no, yeah, he's a really interesting one. I'll be interested to see what happens with him, because like his stuff is just it's filthy. Like he's topping out at 99. It's just like, I don't know. It's just the whole I don't know. We'll see what happens, because like the injury history, and when guys are hitting 99, and his elbow's already, he blew out his elbow in May of 2023 and had Tommy John surgery. So and then the velocity's back up, like you said, which is great, but I don't know. It's always a concern. Like, how long do you have? Like, look at like Walker Buehler, for instance. Like, how long do you have the ability to continue to throw, like, say, 6 to 7 innings a start, hitting 90, even if he was down at 95, like 95 miles per hour, throwing 6 innings every 5th day? Is that really like, feasible? I don't know. I mean, that's why I feel like the smart move here is to move him to the bullpen. But, anyway, we'll move along.
Yeah, we'll move on until something like that pops up, and maybe that's something they'll do at the end of the year if they're just looking to find a place for him. Let's move over to Dodgerland, where Landon Knack was recalled. He's going to go back in the rotation. He has 68 innings in AAA, where he had a 3.71 ERA, 1.26 WHIP with a 28% K rate, 11% walk rate. His 54 innings in the majors, he actually has better numbers. He has a 3 ERA, 0.96 WHIP, 24% K rate, and a 6% walk rate. His first start back, he went 6 innings, 2 earned, 8 Ks, 1 walk. Is this an ad across the leagues? What are you doing with Landon Knack?
No, I mean, again, I feel like with this little time left that, you're looking at a guy who's probably just a streamer in most shallower leagues, at least. If, if you're in a weekly 15-team mixed league, and, this is coming out after Sunday's fab, so he's probably gone by now. But, yeah, I mean, if you're in a league where you have to, like, everyone's rostered more or less, or even a 15-team mixed league, I guess, yeah, he's fine to grab there. But if the matchup isn't good, I don't think I'm starting him unless I really need it. But at this time of year, it's so much about like your fantasy team's needs more than anything else. For him in the big picture wise, he looks good. I really like the Dodgers, development for young arms until maybe their second year in the majors when they need Tommy John surgery or something. The Dodgers push guys, they throw their young arms a lot, and they're good when they're, before their first or second Tommy John surgery. So I think Landon Knack could be interesting, he looks like a number 6 fantasy starter for potentially for next year. I'm thinking I'm already like in 2025 mode a little bit, but for this year, he looks like a streamer. For next year, I could see I could see potential here for, a 120 inning, 3.5 to 3.6 ERA guy with like 8.5 K per 9. Not bad. Like definitely worthwhile. It sounds what I just said. Those numbers are very similar to like what you would have expected from, say, Michael Wacha or Seth Lugo. Like those are fairly safe numbers. So if Landon Knack finds his way into the Dodger rotation, next year, there could be something here. For this year, we'll see. I guess if you need the start and the matchup is good.
Yeah, I don't mind starting him. Like you heard from the numbers, he's been very good in his starts. The one concern is they do seem to have him on a pitch count, and outside of that, they also seem to pull him at kind of the first sign of trouble, which is fine. Managing young pitchers that way is worked for the Dodgers. So that's my only concern if you're looking to stream him or looking to roster him long term for this season. Long term being like 3 weeks, but yeah, that's all I would worry about. Everything else looks good on him, and for next year, we'll just have to see what the Dodgers rotation looks like because there's a lot of names for 5 rotation spots, and I don't know who all gets them once everything falls out. Let's move over to St. Louis, where our boy is back, and that is Jordan Walker. He went down to the minors for the minimum stay, 10 days, and now he's back. During his 10 days down, he had 32 plate appearances, 2 home runs, and a stolen base. He had 258. He has 9 home runs and 4 stolen bases for the season down in AAA. I mean, what are you thinking here with Jordan Walker? We've been teased so much, Gray.
Yeah. Well, he when he returned from the minor leagues, Ali Marmol said that he was going to be a starter every day. And then I believe it took about 3 days until he benched him for like Matt Carpenter or something. Guys can get rest. Guys can get a rest here and there. But to be up in the major leagues for like less than a month and you are putting a guy on the bench after you just said he's an everyday starter, it just doesn't make. I don't know, man. I'm just so confused as to how, it's like the like if you're like known as a team that gets nothing out of their outfielders until they're traded away and then they become stars. If that is the common perception, maybe you look at yourself, you look at your internal organization and you say, hey guys, what are we doing wrong here? Because it feels like it's pretty obvious that if a guy is like trying to develop at the plate, you let him get at bats. Like that's not hard. Now I can also say about Alec Burleson, who suddenly went into a platoon for no reason. I don't know, man. The Cardinals just are really bad at developing bats, like really bad. Yeah, so I don't know. I like Jordan Walker though. I mean, I think I said this the last time he was called up before he went down for 10 days and then got recalled. I think I mentioned that, I'm a big fan still. He's still super young. He's got power, surprising speed for a guy his age, his size. And he can also hit for average. So yeah, I'm a huge fan with Jordan Walker, but I don't know, man. He might need a change at 22 now. He's 22, and he might need a change of scenery because the Cardinals are just so bad at this. But yeah, I would grab Jordan Walker in any league just because, like, I do think he's really talented, and if you have guys available in the league who are actually hot, I would go that route before I would just grab a guy who has talent who may get hot. I would go with the guy who is actually hot. So, take that for what it's worth. But Jordan Walker is a guy who I still like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. He needs the opportunity and just kind of to hit the ground running. But to your point, if there's somebody who's been playing well, available in your league, then maybe that's the way to go at this point. Just because, burn the hand. Like if Connor Norby's available, definitely running with Connor Norby right now instead of running with Jordan Walker.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move over to the south side where Bryan Ramos was recalled. Double-A, he has 24 games, 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases, hit 182. Then he went to Triple-A where he has 64 games, 8 home runs, 6 stolen bases, hit 263, 339, 416, had a 20.8% K rate, 8.6% walk rate. He has 16 games in the majors where he's hit 196, 16.7% K rate, and a 2% walk rate. Is this somebody you think is going to play every day, Gray, worth a pickup? I mean, the White Sox have so many people they have to get at bats for. So I'm not sure they can fit, a top prospect in their system in the lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for them to find room with Lennon Sosa and Corey Julks and Zach Deloach. And I actually didn't make up any of those names. I wouldn't go anywhere near Bryan. I mean, if you want in like an AO only, go for it. But I feel like, I wouldn't touch him in a mixed league. It's not worth it. I see the potential. Like if the lineup was decent and the everyday at bats were guaranteed, but I don't see either for the White Sox. So yeah, I wouldn't go near Ramos for this year unless he gets hot, and then it's like, okay, sure. But yeah, for right now, I wouldn't go near him.
Yeah, there's not many people in that White Sox lineup you want to be starting on a successful fantasy baseball team right now. Moving over to San Francisco, Marco Luciano's recalled. Triple-A this year, he has 83 games, 10 home runs, 4 stolen bases. He's hitting 250, 380. He has a 26.8% K rate, 16.9% walk rate. He has 21 games in the majors where he has hit 258, 254, 302, 356 with a 33% K rate and a 6% walk rate. What do you think about Marco Luciano?
He hasn't really impressed me much. Wait, is that impressed?
Are you Shania Twaining?
I'm a Shania twin. So that's that's what we call ourselves at the concerts when we all dress up like her. We're all Shania Twaining.
You can take convention, Gray. We know you're going to Shania conventions. It's okay. Homemade knickknacks. You got like
they call me, yeah, I'm Shania Albright when I show up. I mean, we take Shania, we replace our first name and we use Shania and we keep our last names.
I don't know. Gray Twain has a nice ring to it.
Oh yeah, but I wouldn't dare presume I'm married to the great Shania Twain. Anyway, I don't know. I don't really care much for Marco Luciano. He's a weird one because in the beginning of the season, like prior to the year, he did look kind of interesting, but then he came up and he did so little after his promotion earlier last year and even earlier this year. It's just like there's so little we've seen from him that I'd like to see something before I really got excited. But he does seem like, in theory, it seems like he has power, like really good power, that is, for a middle infielder, and a little bit of speed. But yeah, he hasn't shown anything. He hasn't even really he hasn't even shown really an ability to like run or hit in any way in the majors, that is. So yeah, outside of NO only, I'm not interested unless he actually starts doing something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there. The power is legitimate, but the hit tool, I don't know if we're ever going to see the power that exists there. At least right now. I mean, he's 22. There's a lot of development that can go on still. Somebody that carried a lot of prospect hype when he first came out at 17, 18, but that's cooled as well as the hit tool just hasn't come around like we thought it might. If you're looking around and you're wanting to throw, darts, that's fine. But as we said earlier, if there's somebody that's already performing well, probably go with them. I would go with Jordan Walker over him. Definitely Jasson Dominguez. So of the hitters we talked about, last for me. I'm assuming last for you as well, Gray.
Yeah, no, totally.
All right, let's move over to Texas, where they called up a couple of arms. Never mind. They called up one arm, one bat. They called Justin Foscue, who has 48 games, 9 home runs, 2 stolen bases. He's hitting 276, 420, 477, just under a 17% K rate, just under an 18% walk rate. He has 11 games in the majors this year where he's gone 071, 133, 107. Is this just AL only, and even then, maybe nothing?
Yeah, he looks to me like, even if he were playing every day, which there's no guarantee of that if he were playing every day, he kind of looks like a sort of a boring fantasy provider in general, just like like good hit tool, kind of boring power and speed. So maybe 15 homers, 7 steals, 275 average, even if he were playing every day from the start of the year. So it's kind of a boring line in general. Better in deeper leagues, because if he were playing every day, that is, because the hit tool makes him interesting for a deeper league. But yeah, for right now, I'm not interested.
All right, let's move on to the arm for the Rangers. That is Jack Leiter. He has 77 innings in AAA this year, 3.51 ERA, 1.26 WHIP, 33% K rate, 10.6% walk rate. Not so great in his 23 innings in the majors, where he has a 10.41 ERA and a 1.84 WHIP, but it was very small sample sizes. Given that it didn't go great in his first time around, would you look at Leiter, or is this we'll wait and see what happens, and maybe we'll look at him more for next year?
Yeah, no, Jack Leiter, unlike Kumar Rocker, I wouldn't even stream Jack Leiter because the command is so awful. I would be concerned about a blow up. So I wouldn't go anywhere near Jack Leiter for this year. For next year, he looks a lot worse than Kumar Rocker because of the command. I would need, I don't mind if the command is as bad as Jack Leiter's is. It's fine if it's coming with a 10 plus K per 9, but in the majors so far, he hasn't really shown that ability to strike out guys. He has done it in the minors, so maybe it's there somewhere. He just needs to unlock it. But yeah, for right now, I'm not even really that interested in Jack Leiter for 2025. I mean, in deeper leagues, obviously you take a flyer on a guy, but yeah, for right now, I'm not interested at all. And I don't know. I'll have to dig in this offseason, but I don't really think I'm going to be very interested in Jack Leiter for next year either. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how he finishes the year out, if he's maybe figures some things out. But given the current numbers that we're looking at, I'm kind of with you. we haven't really seen anything yet that points to something really strong for our game, at least. Let's move over to a couple of weekly performers. You mentioned him earlier. I feel like we should talk about him since he was number 3 on the player rater this week, and that is Pavin Smith. 62 games at AAA this year. He had 13 home runs, a stolen base, hit 318, 433, 564. He has 16 plate appearances in the majors for 4 home runs, 1 stolen bases, 5 home runs, 9 RBI. Sorry, that was this week, where he had 4 home runs, a stolen base. For the season, he has 44 games, 7 home runs, a stolen base, and he's hitting 270. What are we thinking about Pavin Smith as we're moving forward? Is this somebody who might have, a place in our game moving forward, or was this just a hot week, Greg?
I see mostly with Pavin Smith, I think there's something is here, but there's a little bit of concern because like in 2021, he did start 145 games, 545 at bats, 545 plate appearances. He had 11 homers, 1 steal, and he hit 267, which from a real baseball standpoint, that's not bad for a rookie year. But then the Diamondbacks never really committed to him again. So I almost wonder, because they have, in theory at least, you would hope that the team has more information than, the fantasy baseball podcaster. You would hope. I don't know if that's always the case, but you would hope that's the case. So, the fact that they never really committed to him again makes me think there's nothing really here other than he had a hot week, and that's probably it. I give him the benefit of the doubt. It looks like, he makes really good contact. He has a really good eye. He takes a lot of walks and he doesn't strike out. His actual, this bar, except for this past week, he hasn't really made a ton of hard contact. His hard contact is up this year, but that is so heavily skewed because he just had an insane week. So if you were to just take his numbers in general from his MLB career, he has a 33% hard contact rate across almost 1,200 plate appearances. That's a lot of plate appearances to have a pretty weak contact. So, my worry with him is he makes contact, but it's not really good contact usually. So unless he's really unlocked something in this past week, which I really don't think is the case, I'm just kind of he's a hot potato and there's not much else there. But yeah, I don't know. I guess in general, to give you a comp, he's kind of like a poor man's Ty France, who is already a poor man's first baseman. So yeah, there's not much there.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe look at his teammate Ketel Marte as maybe the upside for what he could potentially be, but even Ketel had the random 30 home run season, which I don't think is really in there. I will say for the numbers, the K rate's down this year, which is nice. Always good to see on every player. Not that it was necessarily high to begin with. The hard hits up, but as you mentioned, very heavily weighted by the very good week he had because he only has 44 games up at the majors this year. So we'll see if this continues, but there are at least positive signs that if he finishes out the season this way, maybe looking at him, in deep leagues as, a multi-position eligibility guy you can kind of move around and use as a corner infielder or a last outfielder type.
Yeah.
Somebody that we thought was going to be a whole lot more than that this year is Julio Rodriguez, currently 131st on the player rater, which is actually better than I thought he would be. But over the last 53 plate appearances, Gray, he has 3 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 12 runs, 9 RBIs, 11% walk rate and K rate, and he's hitting 370, 434, 609. On the season, he has 125 games, 14 home runs, 21 stolen bases, and he's hitting 262. Is this the return of Julio Rodriguez? Is he maybe finally healthy? Is this just, him taking advantage of September baseball. What are you thinking here?
Oh, man. Well, we were wrong about counting out Corbin Carroll earlier this season. So wrong about Julio Rodriguez and expect him to be better, because I was pretty much I just considered Julio Rodriguez done for this year. Prior obviously to the last like couple weeks since he returned, I assumed when he was going to return from the IL, we weren't going to get much of anything. Like it was an ankle injury, so I was concerned there wasn't going to be steals. The steals came back. He's even hit for a little bit of power. His average is decent. He's actually 15th overall on the 7-day player rater, and he's in the 80s on the 30-day player rater. I'd say that, like, the fact that I feel like him being in the 80s in like on the 30-day player rater, the fact that I'm thinking about that as a positive shows how bad his season really was. I'm like Oliver begging for gruel when it comes to Julio Rodriguez. It's like, please just give me something, man. Just give me anything. So I'm happy that he's doing something. That something is, I mean, I'm trying to be positive. So the positives are the fact that he's stealing bases. That's a huge positive because the ankle. So for the short term, things looks like he's healthy. So that's great. Like, obviously, that's really good. The fact that he only has one homer in the past week, I mean, like even like last year, like his September was so great. Like for Julio Rodriguez to be quote unquote good and only have one homer in the last week, it's like, man, we've really lowered our expectations for Julio Rodriguez. So I'd like to see more still. Even I'm reluctantly optimistic, I guess, that he's a little bit better and that at least it looks like he's healthy. So if he can finish off strong, man, he is going to be a tough one for next year, because if he can finish off strong, say, because right now he's at 14 homers. Let's say the power actually comes back in the final 3 weeks, and he gets to like 20 homers, 25 steals, and a 270 average. And that would take some really heavy. I mean, that would basically be him hitting almost half of his homers in like the last 3 weeks. So that would take some real doing, because he hasn't shown really any consistent power this year. But if he were to do that, I don't know, maybe top 30. I mean, he's or top 25. I mean, he's really, it's going to be hard to draft him next year, because there's very little like huge, like, great signs for what he's doing. Like his BABIP, he's got a 335 BABIP right now with a 262 average and 14 homers in a terrible park with awful hard contact. Like, his numbers are just not like jumping off the page as being like, oh yeah, he's definitely. Now, with that said, the speed looks fine. And, to take another random guy, another random superstar who looked like really bad for a couple of years, or at least a year, was like Bryce Harper. There was a moment there where it looked like Bryce Harper was like a 240 hitter. Like a good like year or two of his career, it looked like he couldn't make contact anymore. And he came out of it. He came around. So Julio Rodriguez is still young enough. Like, I mean, he could be huge next year, but to say like he's going to be huge next year, you're not looking at anything in his numbers right now and being like, oh yeah, that's why he's going to be good next year. Like, there's nothing really jumping off the page as being obvious as to why he's going to bounce back.
Yeah, let me throw a few outfielders at you real quick, Ray. Let's start with Brent Rucker, breakout of the year.
Man, because Brent Rucker, like I really, really like Brent Rucker, right? I think he's having a great year, and the numbers and the underlying numbers really like they back up like his breakout, right? But he's not a 20 steal guy. Like Brent Rucker, I think is a 32 homer, 7 steal, 255 hitter. Like even though he's hitting close to 300 this year, and he might even hit 300 this year, but it's coming with such a huge BABIP that even though I know the hard contact, like his hard contact is really good. Like Brent Rucker is making really good contact. So I understand why the BABIP is high. But I feel like even though it's like the hard contact is good, his BABIP is still it's a little bit above where I would imagine it's going to be. So it's it's near 370. I imagine he's closer to like a 335 BABIP guy, which puts him at like 255 as an average. So 32 homers, 7 steals, 255. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think I'm going Julio Rodriguez over it.
All right, I'm staying in Oakland. Lawrence Butler or Julio Rodriguez.
I'm definitely going Lawrence Butler. Excuse me, I'm definitely going Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, I like Lawrence Butler, but I don't think Lawrence Butler is on the same is not in the same class as these other is Rooker even. I think it's Julio Rodriguez, then Rooker, then Butler, even though Butler obviously has a little bit more speed, but he's got so much less power and he doesn't make as good a contact. He looks like a 250 hitter, Lawrence Butler too. I like Lawrence Butler. I think he's definitely someone I'll be targeting next year, but I don't think he's on the same plane as a Rooker or Julio Rodriguez.
All right, last one before we move on the bullpen. Jackson Chourio.
Oh, for Chourio over all of them. Chourio over Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's why I was saving him for last because he's looked really great as of late. And, when we get to the end of the season, the numbers are pretty much going to be there at this point. But at the same time, he's going to have the same numbers as Lawrence Butler, who you just shot down. So just no, I'm with you. I think Chourio probably moves to the top of that list. Let's move over to the bullpen. The Yankees have said they're going to get creative with their bullpen. So
for whatever reason, whenever I hear that, I think of the guy in Airplane who's like, "Oh, we can make a brooch, a pterodactyl." It's like, get creative. Like, what are you doing? Are you making origami players? Like, what are you doing? Get creative. Like, it sounds like you're at a pottery class and you're like, "Oh, here's a pitcher." I don't understand. Get creative, man. I mean, the Yankees, honestly, for me are one of the funniest teams because like everyone is, all their fans, I think are like this, but maybe not all of them, but most of them. And the media is like this, where they're like, you come to New York, man, you're gonna have it rough. If you can't handle New York, they're gonna boo you out of this place. You're not gonna be able to handle it, all right? And then when you're actually in New York, it's like, oh, Clay Holmes only blew 11 saves. It's not. I mean, it's okay, right? And then Aaron Boone, it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. We played DJ LeMahieu for 400 at bats. It's okay. It's like, you don't have to be that good. It's like, oh, Verdugo is one of the worst outfielders in the major leagues. Oh, yeah, but we only gave him 130 games to. like this is a Yankee team that's supposedly so hard to play for. It's like they're really not very hard to play for when you have Aaron Boone, who is just like gives anyone a chance forever. Like forever. It's like, oh my God, like how much of a sample size do you need to see? Anyway, the Yankees are gonna get creative.
Yeah. So anybody you want there, Greg? For looking around,
I grabbed Luke Weaver because he got the first save. But honestly, if by this Sunday, like if by this time next week, if Jake Cousins or even Clay Holmes were to get the next few saves, it wouldn't shock me at all. I grabbed Weaver because he got the first post Holmes save, but other than that, there's no rhyme or reason as to what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Weaver, it could be Tommy Conley, it could be Jake Cousins, it could go back to Clay Holmes, it could be Tim Hill in a lefty situation. So we'll wait and see what happens in New York, but basically just avoid it unless you're chasing in need every little bit. Dodgers, we discussed them last week where they're pretty much in a committee at this point. Anything that you see different in how the Dodgers are approaching this?
No, I agree with what we were saying last week, which is basically I think they want Evan Phillips to be the closer, but Kopech could get saves.
Yeah, I agree. Moving over to Pittsburgh, where Aroldis had a bad day. Is it worth grabbing Denny Santana as the potential closer there, or do you think they're going to stick with Aroldis?
Well, it's hard to say because I think like if I were the Pirates, and I'm not, but if I were, I would want Bednar to figure it out and to get the closer job back going into the offseason, because I mean, I feel like he's their guy, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the Pirates are doing, because I don't think Aroldis is really their long-term solution for them. I mean, I get that he's probably better for right now, but they're not playing for right now anyway. Like, it doesn't matter what happens like in the ninth inning if Bednar gives up games. And Chapman is a free agent, and Bednar, I like I said, I feel like they want Bednar to be their closer, like going into next year. So you want to get him right. If getting him right means having him in the seventh or eighth inning, then I guess that's fine. But I would think they'd want to get him back into the ninth. With all that said, I wouldn't speculate past Aroldis Chapman in the Pirates bullpen. That would be it.
All right, fair enough. And I agree. It seems like Bednar should be the guy, but maybe they're just trying to limit his innings or just, let him kind of cruise the season out and get him right in the offseason. I'm not sure what's going on there. That'll be an interesting one for next year. A situation that I have no idea what to do with, Gray, and that is the Marlins. Can you tell me who might get the next save there?
There's a bunch of guys. So there's a handful of guys. It's Tinoco, Bender, McMillan, Cronin, DeClain, Cronin. But what's interesting with most of those guys, at least, they're all kind of good. Like they're not bad. They're like, I think Bender, Anthony Bender has been like the worst, but he's probably the one with the most experience. And then you have like Jesus Tinoco, who's been like really good, like excellent, kind of lights out recently at least. And McMillan has been similarly really like solid, like a 1.5 ERA. So yeah, but I don't think the Marlins are going to win many games. So I wouldn't speculate. Those guys have all been solid, but I mean, I don't know. I guess if I'm going to speculate, I would go Jesus Tinoco, but yeah, I probably wouldn't bother unless I was crazy desperate for saves.
Yeah, I mean, Tinoco's numbers are at least good enough to where if he's not giving you saves, he's still, providing you with something valuable, but it's a bad situation to be chasing saves from. Speaking of a bad situation to chase saves, Victor Vodnik returns for Colorado. Is he taking the job back? Is it Tyler Kinley? Just avoid at all costs?
Yeah, no, I don't have their stats in front of me, but I think Kinley was something like a 6+ ERA, something really bad. I don't like. Personally, I don't need saves that bad. If you do need saves that bad, I guess go with Victor Vodnik because, like, he was at least somewhat decent. But, on Sunday, the Rockies actually had a save opportunity and they went with Kinley, and Vodnik was supposedly back. So maybe they're sticking with Kinley. I don't know. I honestly, I would avoid it if I could, but I think I would lean Vodnik because he's been like somewhat decent. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. He hasn't really been good either. I would just try and avoid it. Kinley's been like incredibly bad though. Like the fact that Kinley has gotten one save, let alone as many saves as he's had. I mean, he's been so bad. Vodnik really hasn't been much better. Yeah, I don't know. I would. Yeah, I guess you know what? I guess I'll go Kinley because he got the last save. So Bud Black, I think probably just goes with the guy who got the last save. So yeah, I guess I'll go Kinley. But it's really avoid if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Bud Black basically doing like the League of Their Own managing from the very beginning, where it's like, oh, I really like that time in the 6th inning where you scratched your nuts for half an hour. Like, that was some good stuff. Good managing back there. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably Kinley until he blows it. He's got the last 3 saves. He's actually got 3 in September. We're starting Tyler Kinley, congratulations. The risk paid off, but it's not a great situation.
No.
Why don't you give the people some waiver wire bats? I'll give them some streaming options, and we'll get out of here, Gray.
Okay, cool. So as we mentioned earlier, Pavin Smith had an insane Sunday. Almost it was knocking on the door of Mark Whitten. No one, and not just anyone not just anyone knocks on that door. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Pavin Smith was hot. I would assume he's available in your league. So yeah, I mean, why not? Grab him. He's hot. Then moving on to Tampa Bay, Johnny DeLuca has been really good for about, I want to say, the last 2 weeks now. He was excellent last week, and even I think it bled into the previous week. So yeah, and the exact same goes for Connor Norby. He's been hot for a little bit over a week. Spencer Horwitz, Blue Jays middle infielder, he hit 2 homers on Saturday, then was benched on Sunday because John Schneider is an idiot. And then Horwitz came in and hit a pinch hit home run because, of course, he did. He's hot. Just play him. Okay, anyway, moving on. Cedric Mullins has been really hot. Ty France looks really good in Cincy Red. Andres Chaparro, probably saying that wrong, but the Nationals corner man, he's been hot. Trey Sweeney on the Tigers, he's been hot. Seth Brown on the A's has been hot. Kalenic has been pretty good for the last week plus. He's been good. Victor Robles has been hot recently, but he missed, I believe he missed Sunday with an injury, so you might want to watch that. Ezekiel Duran, he has been hot for the Rangers. He has eligibility everywhere, so that's good. And then Taylor Walls has actually been hot, and he's I think he was hitting like 160 going into last week, and he's raised that average a little bit. He has a homer and a couple steals and has hit 300 over the last week, so he's been good. And then Grant McCray on the Giants outfielder. He had 2 homers, I believe, on Saturday. He's been hot. Yeah. Oh, and Cody Clemens has been hot. He's been filling in for Alec Baum. So yeah, there's some names for you.
All right. On the pitching side, Patrick Corbin, he's been a little hit or miss, but he's playing Miami this week, so feel like you'd start him. Austin Gomber at Detroit. Aaron Zavala's a 2-start at San Francisco. I like at Arizona. If you can avoid that one, do that. In a weekly league, maybe you can't. You just take the risk for the 2-start. Martin Perez at San Francisco. Adam Waller at Pittsburgh and at Washington. Kyler Montero versus Detroit. Again, if you can avoid versus Baltimore, I would do that. But if not, Baltimore has not been as scary recently, so not the worst possible thing. And then Nick Martinez at Atlanta, at Minnesota. There are some streaming options. As we get down to it, if you have specific questions, come find us on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is the owner of the Razzball account. You can find us on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. Like, subscribe, rate, review wherever you listen to us or watch us. Until next week, Gray, talk to you later. Good luck, everybody out there.
Late.